Tēnā koutou katoa. It's good to be together, and I greet you warmly. I thank you sincerely for your commitment to our work these next 2 days. In welcoming you, I am aware that from year to year there's always a slight change of membership, so particular greetings to those who are new members of the Synod. I wonder if you are here for the first time, without embarrassing you, why don't you just stand in your place and we can greet and welcome you. Kia ora. We've had quite a few apologies this year due to sickness. A reminder that there's still quite a bit of it about. This year it has been much more about people reporting bad colds and flu rather than COVID-19. And I think people are much more aware of staying home when they're sick rather than coming and sharing the love with us all. But of course for their own well-being as well. I think we're all learning about how it's good to look after ourselves. Bishop Kittle is one who has succumbed to a cold, and so he has sent his apology for tonight's opening, but also sends his love and prayers and greetings to us all. We are so very grateful to have you with us, Archbishop Sione. Archbishop, we rejoice with you that you have accepted God's call to episcopal ministry. Our prayers are with you in your care and leadership of the Diocese of Polynesia. We've shared a long common history in gospel work in Auckland. In recognition of the significant Pasifika population in our city, as Archbishop noted in his sermon, we look forward to continuing and finding even better mechanisms for that partnership work, for fostering this aspect of partnership within our Three Tikanga Church, which I think has been sometimes easy to forget over the years with our important focus on our bicultural relationships. So Archbishop, thank you for your presence tonight, which embodies a new beginning in our relationship across our diocese. Thank you for your sermon at our opening Eucharist. I would like you tonight from us, as a way of welcoming you amongst us formally, to accept a small gift as a sign of our aroha and of our welcome. Archdeacon Carroll will present that to you. We've tried to offer you something that you will be able to take home on a plane when you go. Partnership remains an important aspect of our diocesan life. We have a focus in 3 directions, with Te Pihopatanga o Te Tai Tokiro, with Te Pihopatanga o Te Manu o Te Wheke, and with the Diocese of Polynesia. Just this week, we've been able to celebrate the conclusion of a piece of partnership work that we'd undertaken with Te Manu o Te Wheke, in that the Diocese of Auckland made a contribution towards the purchasing of a block of land at Rangiawhia in the Waikato, land which had been lost in 1864 during the Waikato Wars. At Rangiawhia there were both Anglican and Catholic missions established alongside a Māori agricultural settlement. So the attack on Rangiawhia, which included the burning of the Catholic chapel and the burning of other whare in the settlement, meant the death of numerous non-combatants who were living there. And it has been the source of considerable mamae over these past 160 years. So the opportunity for the Church to be part of restoring some of that whenua to Ngāti Apakura is a wonderful sign of hope and of reconciliation. We will continue to develop our partnerships both relationally and in these tangible ways across our tikanga. Each year it's our custom to pause in prayerful thanksgiving for former members of the Synod who have died since we last gathered. I invite you to stand as you are able, please. In the House of Clergy, the Reverend Dr. Terry Cray, the Reverend Ron Smith, the Reverend Canon Roy Everall, the Reverend Bob Reha Scott, the Reverend Beatrice Foote, and just this week, the Reverend Pat Borden. In the House of Laity, John Bly, the former co-archdeacon of Waimate, Jean Coomer, the parish of Torbay, Janet Foster, former diocesan archivist, Murray Guy, parish of Papakura, and Roger Dewhurst, the mission district of Paparoa. Rest eternal grant unto them, O Lord, and let light perpetual shine upon them. Thank you, please sit. Talking about the weather has almost overtaken our Auckland metropolitan obsession with talking about the traffic. Many parts of the diocese have been greatly affected by the January storms and the February cyclone, which has then been compounded by, it feels like non-stop, ongoing rain and the resultant heightened water table. We're all conscious of the strain that this has placed on already fragile roading networks around our diocese, and it has been most keenly felt on the Coromandel and in parts of Northland. State Highway 25A across the Coromandel remains closed until early next year. The other access roads around the Coromandel are tenuous. Ministry units and communities in Whitianga, Tairua, Coromandel Township have all been regularly physically isolated this past year. The Brynderwyns have been often closed or restricted. State Highway 1 over the Mangamukas has been closed for a year now with real uncertainty about whether it can ever be rebuilt. Kilometres and kilometres of it are destroyed. Quite a few of our churches, our halls, our vicarages have been affected by flooding to various extents. That's added strain to our ministry units financially, emotionally, in terms of time as people attend to the recovery and repairs. And beyond our diocese, we continue to be aware of the long-term impacts of the weather on settlements, particularly in Tairāwhiti and Hawke's Bay. Across the Auckland Diocese, thousands of homes were affected by those floods. Many hundreds are still unable to be occupied 7 months on. And the biggest impact around this city has been in communities in the west of Auckland. I'm very thankful for the ways in which I heard great stories about local people and church communities responding well to the community needs around them as they were able to during the worst of the weather earlier in the year. Churches provided shelter, provided food and clothing, and perhaps above all provided compassion and care to others. So thank you for that wonderful witness to the love of God in the midst of that crisis. Auckland Emergency Management and the Religious Diversity Centre have done some work together around building resilient religious communities. And they've recently released a resource about that. It assists people in planning for emergencies, ways in which people can lead locally in an emergency, and ways in which there are opportunities for religious places to be used in an emergency. So I commend that resource to you as we prepare ourselves for the next time that something will happen. And I'm going to include the link to the resource in the published version of this charge. This week, the official establishment of Te Ohu Whakawhanaunga Tāmaki Makaurau took place at an event in Māngere. The diocese has been part of this alliance since its establishment in 2018. Tohu exists in order to bring organisation and substance to the experience of people living in situations of poverty, and so to enable their stories to have a greater impact, to have a bigger voice towards those who are policy and decision makers in our society. Prime Minister Chris Hipkins, Deputy Leader of the National Party Nicola Willis, Co-Leader of the Green Party Marama Davison. The three of them were present at the event last night. They spoke in response to the challenges that are laid before them, each one of them making a positive response in particular to a wero related to social housing in Auckland. I was humbled to be asked to speak on behalf of faith communities. Faith communities are one of the 4 streams of membership of the Alliance. It now has a 45-member set of organisations who have joined it. In my kōrero, I noted that election campaigns are times when people can over-ask and political parties can over-promise. But many people are asking. They're asking in order to secure their own ongoing economic place in society. And they can do so through the influence of well-organised unions and their professional associations. Te Ohu exists so that those who live in poverty are also able to ask and bring influence in a collective way to their situation. We follow the Saviour, whose love is poured out for all people and whose heart has a particular care for those who are on the margins, those who are too often unnoticed in our communities and in our society. Te Ohu Tamaki and our membership of it gives us a further opportunity to express our faith in advocating for the situation of people living in poverty. So as we celebrated the establishment of the Auckland Alliance last night, I do want to pay tribute to those who have been involved in it these past years, and especially to David Hall and Susan Adams, who have been trustees on behalf of the diocese and who have kept the vision of Te Ohu before us these past years as it's reached this point. Tending to abuse in the church has been a large focus in recent years in terms of our response to the Royal Commission of Inquiry and the Dilworth Independent Inquiry, our engagement with survivors relating to redress, and the development of policies and practices within the church to create a safer environment. Much progress has been made, but it's critical that we maintain an ongoing awareness and commitment to ensuring that our worshipping communities and their related activities are welcoming and safe places for people. This year's ministry conference theme was on being a trauma-informed church. It allowed people the chance to be updated on all of the recent events around the things I spoke about a moment ago. We were able to hear from a survivor of abuse in a faith-based situation, to be reminded of what our policy changes and expectations are, but also to be equipped for recognising and responding to people who have suffered trauma. So this isn't just something for diocesan and national church leadership. It's a corporate responsibility, and we have to work it out well in each place and take our responsibility together. It concerns me, and you won't find this in the written version of the charge, but it concerns me that the community's losing interest in this. They've had the scandal, they've had the things that sell the papers, and now I'm noticing that when things, quite significant moments are reported, they're a real flash, nobody pays them much attention. And that concerns me, and it should concern us, and we need to ensure that in our midst these things still concern us and we still respond well. The Dilworth report is expected to be published very soon now, and the final Royal Commission report will be published in March next year. We'll be very attentive to the recommendations contained in these reports, and we will respond appropriately to them. Two of our partner social service agencies have had changes of CEO in the past year. In October last year, Denise Cosgrove began at the Selwyn Foundation, succeeding Gary Smith, who had served for 10 years in that role. Denise brings considerable leadership experience in social services, including from her past role for 5 years as CEO of Presbyterian Support Northern. Andrea McLeod joined the ATWC in June, succeeding Judy Mattaya, who had also given 10 years of service there, 8 of them as CEO. Andrea likewise brings great experience as a senior leader across the social, health and disability sectors, and was most recently General Manager of Social Services at Presbyterian Support Northern. So I want to acknowledge Andrea and Denise in our midst at their first synod, to express our thanks also to Presbyterian Support for giving us 2 great leaders for some of our partner agencies. City Mission was celebrated in the wider community just a week ago when it was announced that they had won the Supreme Award at the 2023 National Diversity Awards. This was granted for their work to improve Māori outcomes and intentionally privilege Māori development, and that work is having a far-reaching positive impact on those working in the organisation and on the people in need they support every day. It's a great testament to the work of the mission. Congratulations to Helen and to your team. We're very grateful for the work that each of these agencies undertakes, and I think we're proud to be stakeholders with them in it. Also want to acknowledge the appointment of Dr. Emily Colgan as Manukura of St John's College. Emily read at our service tonight, read from Isaiah. She is an Old Testament scholar. She could have read in Hebrew, but she helped us by reading in English. I'm really proud to have an Auckland Anglican take up this leadership role at the college, a lifelong Anglican in this diocese. Emily has a strong academic track record and importantly a commitment to enabling effective training and formation for those preparing for ordained ministry. I also want to say that the appointment of a lay woman to such an important role in our church is a cause for much thanksgiving. At the commissioning of a priest in a mission district recently, I said this in my sermon. I name some issues that are not yours alone, but are ones that we face right around the diocese. Ageing congregations, decline in attendance, juggling finances to balance the budget or not, managing the multiplicity of compliance issues, a reluctance by people to commit, and many more things. You choose which of those fit your situation, but they are the kind of issues which present a growing crisis for the church. When do we find time for mission? And even if we can, what are we meant to do? When I became bishop, I brought a vision and commitment to building the church in the diocese through the support and development of the church locally. That remains my vision and my commitment. It has been given more substance and definition through the Healthy Church model and its related consultation process. COVID-19 took its impact on that process, and plans are being put in place to reinitiate it in 2024. For those not familiar with it, I'm going to append the model to the published version of the charge. Beyond that, though, the focus of the episcopal and diocesan teams as a whole is to offer support and resourcing to the people of the diocese, and especially to clergy and to lay people in ministry leadership roles. No one will ever be totally satisfied with the amount of that which is provided. My experience is the more we offer, the more that is expected. That's life, I guess. But we do our best, and I think that if we look back over 10 years or so, we might see how the nature of that resourcing and support has grown. I continue to believe that the Church incarnated locally through our ministry units, chaplaincies and other expressions of ministry is the primary place for our mission. That's the place where we interface with people in local communities, and thus where we have the potential to develop relationships that allow us to share the love of God and to be part of the work of God's kingdom. When we undertake healthy church consultations, it is often the case that the quadrant that's named living beyond ourselves is the hardest one for people to be able to articulate what we're doing or to think about what new ideas there might be for acting. That's the quadrant that speaks of outreach and proclamation, the sharing of our faith through word and action. So at that recent Mission District commissioning, I also said this: I can't stand here and give you the answer about what you should be doing. I am not here. You are here. Each of you is a strong part of the communities within which you live. You know these communities. You know their needs, the ways in which healing might come to people and places, and thus the opportunities for the word of truth to find a place. Those are the mission opportunities which God opens up before you. People sometimes wonder to us where the opportunities exist to talk about these issues. Well, for clergy, they're often the subject of conversation in cluster meetings. Locally, I hope they are frequently a point of discussion in your ministry units, at least within governing bodies, among the leadership groups in places. I hope they're the focus of some annual planning around goals for mission and ministry. But as a diocese, we do not easily address them, and Synod doesn't always easily provide the opportunity when we are together. However, I'm going to get all synodical here. We have a standing order. It's number 14, and it's about introducing new business. It has a subclause 3, and that provides for new business that arises out of business of which notice has been given. In other words, having listened to this charge, which is part of the Synod business, it may be that someone might move a new motion without notice that could be as simple as that the Synod thanks the Bishop for his charge. That's not to give me strokes. The point is that such a motion is then allowed to be debated. And that would open the opportunity for discussion together across this House about any of the matters I've raised tonight, but maybe about this one in particular, the sharing of our ideas and our concerns as we face the challenge of mission in our time and in our place. Because it's hard. I have to say, in offering that opportunity and planting an idea in someone's mind, maybe, that I would caution against us getting a corporate rush of blood to the head through the establishment of more groups or committees or commissions to do something about it because of our discussion. Because, that would simply add yet more work to an already overstretched diocesan team and a small group of willing volunteers that work with them. We're very good at asking other people to do things for us. Ultimately, though, we'd be in the hands of the Synod. Let's see what happens when we get to that moment on the order paper tomorrow morning. I continue to be very grateful for the hard work and the collegiality of so many people. In particular, I thank the team that works most closely with me in the exercise of episcopal ministry, and the wider team that works in and from Anglican House, supporting others, resourcing ministry. Beyond them, there's this enormous number of people who give of their time and talents freely as part of that. They allow some of our wider work to really make progress because they're willing to help. Members of the Diocesan Council are a great source of wisdom in their governance of our diocesan life. Likewise, the insights and the wisdom of those who serve as ministry advisors and on boards of nomination. There are groups who support the work of Seasons and Space, people who are part of Just and Ordinary Saints. There are people working to help progress work related to a digital strategy, the review of the Synod, the use of property, the assessing of faculty applications, which you all love, the oversight of finances, health and safety, and on and on and on it goes. People are doing a huge amount. Thank you to you all. Without you, there would not be a diocese, which is not a thing separate to us, by the way, but it's our collective life as we attend together to all of these things that hold our life together and that make our work more effective. Finally, once again, thank you to all of you for being here. Some of you have travelled a good distance across some of those tricky roads I mentioned. Many of you have taken time off work, especially for tomorrow. All of you will give at least some of Saturday to this. Hopefully not all of it if we work well. We might save some of it for you. In comparison to some of the sessions of Synod, this is a lighter load. But within it, there are important things for us to consider and decide. Let's attend well to our work. Let's do it prayerfully. Let's do it respectfully. Kia ora koutou katoa.